There's a grave in a quiet Rhode Island cemetery. Visitors leave coins, flowers, even letters addressed to a vampire. But the story buried here isn't about fangs or capes. It's about fear. Fear so powerful, it turned a grieving town against one of its own. Her name was Mercylina Brown, and she became known as the last American vampire. Exeter, Rhode Island. Winter 1892. A small farming town tucked among leafless trees and stone walls. Families lived quiet lives, close-knit, church-going, bound by superstition. But beneath that peace, something dark was spreading. They called it consumption, what we now know as tuberculosis. It drained the life out of the healthy, one slow cough at a time. Victims grew pale, thin, and haunted. Blood on the lips. Breath short and cold. To those who watched, it looked like the dead were feeding on the living. George Brown was a farmer, strong and steady. He lived with his wife Mary Eliza and their children, Mary Olive, Edwin, and Mercy. But the disease found them one by one. Mary Eliza, gone first. Mary Olive followed. George buried them both on the hill near Chestnut Woods. Then Edwin, the only son, began wasting away. Pale, weak, coughing blood into rags. And Mercy, his youngest sister, grew sick soon after. By January 1892 she was dead. The earth was too frozen to dig. So Mercy's coffin was placed inside the family's crypt. A stone chamber chilled like a freezer. There she waited, for spring. Weeks passed. But Edwin, he was still dying. Every cough drew whispers. Someone murmured, "Perhaps the dead aren't resting." Another said, "Maybe one of them is feeding from the grave." Exeter had heard these stories before. In the nearby towns of Woodstock and Manchester, people had exhumed bodies to stop vampires spreading disease. They'd burned hearts, mixed the ashes in tonics, and sworn the sickness stopped. Fear traveled faster than truth. George Brown didn't believe in vampires. He'd lost half his family already. What good would digging them up do? But his neighbors pressed him. They said if he didn't act, Edwin would die next. And so, on March 17, 1892, George gave in. The townsfolk gathered their shovels. They trudged through melting snow toward Chestnut Hill Cemetery. First came Mary Eliza's grave. Only bones remained. Then Mary Olive, the same. But when they pried open Mercy's coffin, silence fell. Her body looked untouched. Her cheeks still had color. Her hair, thick and dark, clung to her shoulders. Someone whispered, "She's not gone." A local doctor, Dr. Harold Metcalf, tried to reason with them. He said the cold had preserved her body, that it was simply the frost. But reason had no place that day. The villagers wanted proof. They cut open her chest and found liquid blood in her heart. Gasps. Then screams. It was all they needed. To them, Mercy Brown was a vampire. They removed her heart and liver, placed them on a nearby rock, and set them aflame. Thick black smoke curled into the sky. When it was done, they gathered the ashes. And in their desperation they mixed them into a drink. A foul potion made with water and Mercy's remains. They made Edwin drink it, believing it would save him. But it didn't. He died that spring. Voice as historian. Mercy Brown's story wasn't unique. There were over 80 documented vampire exhumations in New England between 1790 and 1892. Most were driven by tuberculosis outbreaks. People saw the symptoms: pale faces, red lips, thin bodies, and they matched every detail of the old vampire legends. Mercy was simply the last one to pay the price. Today we know exactly what happened. Mercy's body had been stored above ground in freezing weather, slowing decomposition. Blood pooled in her heart because of gravity, a normal process mistaken for fresh feeding. There was no vampire, just a community grasping for control, in the face of something they couldn't understand. The Providence Journal published the story days later, calling it the vampire exhumation in Exeter. Reporters described villagers lighting fires in the snow, doctors shaking their heads in disbelief. Soon the tale spread far beyond Rhode Island. By the end of that year, it appeared in papers across New England, and even in London. Some say one reader in particular took notice, an Irish writer named Bram Stoker. When Dracula appeared in 1897, it carried echoes of Exeter's fears: a disease of blood, a fear of contagion, and the terror of what lies beyond the grave. Voice as investigator. I've visited Mercy's grave more than once. You feel it the moment you walk in. The air turns heavy. People leave crosses, coins, sometimes notes asking for mercy. Literally. Last winter our recorder picked up a single cough. No wind. No footsteps. Just that. Narrator. Chestnut Hill Cemetery still stands on that quiet road in Exeter. Mercy's gravestone reads simply, Mercy L. Brown. Died January 17, 1892 E19. Visitors leave flowers in the snow. Some leave lipstick marks on the stone. Teenagers sneak in at night, searching for the ghost of America's vampire. Locals say sometimes you hear a faint cough from behind the trees. Sometimes, a shape in white among the gravestones. Gone as soon as you blink. Mercy Brown never drank blood. She never rose from her coffin. She was a victim of disease and of the stories people told to explain their pain. In the end, it wasn't a vampire that haunted Exeter. It was grief and fear, disguised as faith. If you ever find yourself in Rhode Island, under the pale moon of Exeter, stand by her grave, listen closely, and remember, sometimes the dead aren't the ones who need saving.